everyone, today we'll be dealing with types of chemical reactions. There are 5 types of reactions you have to study in class 10. First one, combination reaction. Second one, decomposition reaction. Third one, displacement reaction. Fourth one, double displacement reaction. Fifth one, redox reaction. First one is combination reaction. This is also known as synthesis reaction, which means that a new compound is synthesized or produced. So, two or more reactants combine in a reaction to form a single product. Here the reactants are A and B. It reacts to form a product C. Let's see a quick analogy to this reaction. Here comes our Mickey and Minnie. They are good friends. They share a lot of things in common. They group together, then they combine to form a single group. It's an example to show the combination reaction. Here are some examples of combination reaction. First one, ammonia plus hydrochloric acid gives ammonium chloride. Magnesium plus oxygen gives magnesium oxide. Calcium oxide plus water gives calcium hydroxide plus heat. When in a reaction heat is produced, it is known as exothermic reaction. And then last one is iron plus sulfur gives iron sulfide. The second type of reaction is known as decomposition reaction. It's just the opposite of combination reaction. So here decompose means to split or to break down. Now here a single reactant breaks down to give similar products. Here C gives A plus B. Just the opposite of combination reaction. Now here the two friends, they fight each other, they split into two, or we can say they decompose into two. So that is C gives A plus B. Decomposition reaction are of 3 types. First one, thermal decomposition, as the name suggests, related to heat. Second one, electrolytic decomposition, it is related to electricity. Third one, photolytic decomposition, it is related to sunlight. So let's see in detail. Thermal decomposition. When a decomposition is carried out by heating, it is called thermal decomposition. Here ferrous sulfate crystals, when they are heated, it decomposes to form ferric oxide, sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide. Here heat is absorbed in the reaction, so it is known as endothermic reaction. Next example, calcium carbonate is also known as limestone. When it is heated, it becomes quicklime, that is calcium oxide plus carbon dioxide. Second one is electrolytic decomposition. When a decomposition is carried out by electricity, it is called electrolytic decomposition. Here is the example of electrolysis of water. When electricity is passed through water, it decomposes to hydrogen and oxygen. Third one is photolytic decomposition. When a decomposition is carried out in the presence of sunlight, it's called photolytic decomposition. Silver chloride, which is white in color, when it is kept in sunlight, it becomes gray, which is due to the decomposition of silver chloride to silver and chlorine by sunlight. Silver bromide also behaves in the same way. When it is kept in sunlight, it becomes silver and bromine. Both silver chloride and silver bromide are used in black and white photography. The next type of chemical reaction is known as displacement reaction. From the word itself, displacement means kicking out someone and taking its position. Now it's defined as the reaction in which more reactive element displaces less reactive element. It's called displacement reaction. The general formula is A plus BC equals AC plus B. Now here more reactive element C, it displaces less reactive element B from BC. So B is kicked out from BC. So as you see in this analogy, Minnie Mouse is more reactive than Daisy Duck. So it displaces Daisy Duck and it rejoins with Mickey Mouse. Now the Daisy Duck is kicked out from its position. Now let's see some examples. First one, copper sulfate plus zinc gives zinc sulfate plus copper. Here zinc is more reactive than copper, so it displaces copper from copper sulfate and becomes zinc sulfate plus copper. Now the second reaction is copper sulfate plus iron gives iron sulfate plus copper. Iron is more reactive than copper, so it displaces copper from copper sulfate and forms iron sulfate. Third example is copper sulfate plus lead gives lead sulfate plus copper. Lead is more reactive than copper, so it displaces copper from copper sulfate and becomes lead sulfate. If you see the reactivity series, zinc is more reactive than iron, than lead, than copper. Which means that zinc is more reactive and copper is least reactive. And the next type of reaction is known as double displacement reaction. The reaction in which there is an exchange of ions between the reactants, it's called double displacement reactions. Any reaction that produces a precipitate is called precipitation reaction. Here if you see, the general format is AB plus CD gives AD plus BC. So there is an exchange of ions between the reactants. Here the reactants are AB and CD. There is an exchange of ions, that is A joins with D and B joins with C. Now let's see this analogy. Now if you see, they are in pairs, and if they exchange their pairs, what happens? That is known as double displacement reaction. Now let's see one example. Sodium sulfate plus barium chloride gives barium sulfate plus sodium chloride. Now if you see, the first element, that is sodium, and the last element chlorine, they combine, and the second and the first, that is sulfate and barium, they join. This is known as exchange of ions between the reactants. Now here the two solutions, that is sodium sulfate and barium chloride, they are mixed together to produce an insoluble solid, which we call it as precipitate, that is barium sulfate. The symbol of precipitate is shown as an arrow that is moving downwards. The last type of reaction is known as redox reaction, or we call it as oxidation reduction reaction. Oxidation and reduction takes place in same reaction, we call it as redox reaction. That is a reaction in which one substance gets oxidized and another gets reduced, is called a redox reaction. What is oxidation in terms of oxygen? It is addition of oxygen, and reduction means it is removal of oxygen. Let's see one example. Zinc oxide plus carbon gives zinc plus carbon monoxide. From zinc oxide, if oxygen is removed, it is known as reduction and it becomes zinc. When oxygen is added to carbon, it becomes carbon monoxide, and that is known as oxidation. So reduction and oxidation takes place in the same reaction. It is known as redox reaction. Now what is oxidation reduction in terms of hydrogen? Removal of hydrogen is oxidation and addition of hydrogen is reduction. Let's see one example. Copper oxide plus hydrogen gives copper plus water. When copper is removed from copper oxide, it becomes a reduction reaction. When oxygen is added to hydrogen, it becomes water, that is oxidation reaction. So oxidation and reduction takes place in same reaction, so it is known as redox reaction. And that's all for today. Thank you. Please like, share and subscribe for more videos.